Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a few minutes, but just a quick thing. If you are missing either your name tag or your voting credentials, so like your voting number that you should have received in your packet, those are going to be important things for you going into the next session at 10:30. So especially the voting number. If you don't have that, come and see us back at the registration desk. But good to see you.
Welcome this morning, everybody. Welcome this morning, everybody. As everyone's coming in, we're just gonna sing worship songs together as we prepare for the business We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. Our God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. Oh, oh. We'll shout out your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung up on that cross and He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. Oh, oh. We'll shout out your praise. 'Cause we were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We'll shout out your praise. Whoa, whoa. We'll shout out your praise. Let's join together in one more song this morning, Build My Life. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. every breath we could ever breathe, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe, we live for you. And holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe, we live for you. We live for you. And holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life, and I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. And holy, there is no one like you, there is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I'm going to pray and then invite who's ever up next to get the day rolling this morning. Dear Lord, thank you for day 2, just to gather together, to hear from you, to learn from each other, and just to grow in the ways that you want us to grow. And I'm just so thankful for everyone here and just this place that we can worship you and just learn more about you. Amen.
Oh, good morning. What a joy to be able to be here, although we kicked it in a little earlier today than yesterday. Usually you try to flip it, but when you have 100 cups of free coffee, that definitely pulls people in. So did you all sleep well? Awesome. No, yeah. There will be plenty of time to do that today, just like church on Sunday morning. So. Well, I am really excited. This has been such a joy. Our team has done such an amazing job putting all of these pieces together as we began to talk through what are the themes we wanted to do. And Equip really emerged because we wanted to not only make sure we're getting realigned and set, not only as a movement, but as we're forming as a conference, but also the other more traditional usage of the term equip is just how do we give practical tools to help people in ministry. During COVID and COVIDing and post-COVIDing, pastor in the town I was living at and I were talking about how do we do ministry together, which is the conversation, and then during COVID, then it's like we're trying to figure out how do we do ministry in the midst of this? And we've been working out with partnerships just to kind of like, how do we reach our city? And I was on the southeast side. He was in the downtown tall steeple church. And we were just talking, and it was like, we need some help. And I'm of the age where most men don't ask for questions. And I just thought, life is too short. I now am the first one to ask for questions, and my wife's like, do we really need to ask for instructions? I mean, if the phone's not telling me, it's like, yeah, I don't have time to waste. So it's like, when I need help, it's like, I'm not going to let pride get in the way. I'm going to reach out, and that's what we did. My friend Brian and I, we said, like, who do we need? So we just started looking through who is out there to coach us. And so Tom Rainer had just finished a book, The Post-Quarantine Church, and of course, Tom has been known for the research and the different things that they've done. And so we sent Tom an email, and Sam, his son, replied and said, you really want to talk to me? And and that was my first encounter with Sam. And Brian and I, we brought Sam on as our coach, and he was guiding us. And we thought we had a coach, and the coaching package we got actually had then a leadership retreat and all sorts of resources that we discovered when we were in Nashville. It's like, we thought we just had a monthly coaching session, and we had this resource of somebody who guided us, talked with us, that we could email at any time, talk and share. So that was when Sam Rainer became my coach. And he still is my ministry coach, because I know for me to continue to move, I need somebody to help me think and to talk through, and that has been at different levels than I have been. And I need a guide. I need people to help. But I also know that in the role I have, I want to be able to resource. I told our pastors yesterday, I said, my job is to equip you to help you move to your next level, where you are a strategic location. And so we're looking at strategic partnerships. And as the other piece that when we started talking to Sam, he is also a pastor. So we said somebody doing qualitative research, somebody writing about the post-COVIDing church, and who is a practitioner. You can't go wrong on that. It's like, we need that. We need somebody who can talk us through with this in a very practical sense. And so Sam has become my friend. And when we were talking about Equip, it's like there's no better person than to have come in and to be able to teach us, to be able to share some of that. And then we're going to share with you some of the strategic partnerships we also have with Church Answers, because they're to scale, doing very practical resources to be able to help and equip the church at multiple levels. And so we're excited. So would you welcome to the stage my friend, Dr. Sam Rainer.
Well, thank you for allowing me the privilege to join you this morning. I love what is happening in the Global Methodist Church. I'm a big fan, and I'm a big supporter, and I want you to know that. And frankly, I could talk simply about what you guys have experienced, not because I've experienced myself in the way that you have, but because I believe in the movement of God that is occurring among you. But I want to talk about reality. I want to talk about the way this world is, the stats, the data, and the practical side of things that influence your churches. So I do want to preface my comments by saying, good job, churches. Good job. The Lord is with you. May the Spirit continue to guide you. It is an honor to be here. And thank you, Scott, for all those kind words. None of them were true. So I'm going to move very quickly. And if you miss anything, it probably wasn't of worth anyway. So let me just roll with this. And we're going to be talking about some trends that can make or break your church in the next 10 years. I will carry forth this conversation in my breakout session as well. So if you're like, oh, did I get that? We can cover it more deeply in my breakout session. But I have been a pastor. I've been a pastor now for 21 years. I think I started at 24. So it's been a wild journey to get me to this point. I love talking about my first church. Everyone has those first church stories, right? So it was in Howardstown, Kentucky, Union Band Baptist Church. Howardstown, Kentucky. I love talking about Union Band because it was a mega church. It was a mega church of 6 people. And the only reason I was there, so I was working in the corporate world. The only reason I was there was because I was telling my girlfriend, soon-to-be fiance, soon-to-be wife, I was like, I think I should preach. And she's like, okay, you trade energy futures. Yeah, I think I should preach. And so she was at college at the time. She was at college, and there used to be these things called bulletin boards. And there was this stuff on them. It's called paper. And you guys know the pull tabs? You pull, like, there's a number, pull the tab. Okay, great. We're all on the same page. So there was an advertisement at her college for a preacher that was about, an hour away from the college. None of the tabs had been pulled. So she thought, this is the perfect church for Sam. Not even the college students want to preach there. So I could tell you all sorts of stories, but I get there, I'm dressed in a suit. This is a rural congregation. I'm driving 2 hours one way to get there. They say that they themselves will say, I live in the hollers. It takes 4-wheel drive to get to some of their homes. Some of you know exactly. It's in the hills of Kentucky. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about, right? And they bragged. They started bragging to me about the throne room. And I kind of knew what the throne room was, but we had different takes on what the throne room was. They had just gotten rid of the outhouse. I am not joking. People of God, I will be the last of my kind. 45 years old, I'll be the last of my kind. It's like, have you pastored a church with an outhouse? I'll be able to say, I was there. I was there. And they had just gotten indoor plumbing. They were so excited about that, so they showed me the throne room. I could not preach on the throne room without thinking that, and like, the Lord has brought us to the throne room. And they're like, do you need to go to the bathroom, preacher? We had more problems than people. We had no money. And get this, a 24-year-old pastor who had not even read the Bible straight through. I know. And you're like, how does that happen? I'm Baptist. We don't have a credentialing process. So it's just like, here you go, preach. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. I've grown some since then. In case if in the last 21 years, I have grown some. But let me tell you, God worked. God worked in that church of 6 people. They had not had services in 6 years. It's 2 years. Church of 6 people, not had services in 2 years. I didn't realize when they called me that I was also going to be the music director. So I'm like, I don't know. What just happened up here? The worship was great. I don't know whoever led. Wonderful, wonderful Spirit-led worship. Thank you. That was not me. I went to the local Walmart, which is 45, 50 minutes away. And thankfully, this was still back in the day when they sold CDs. And I was like, oh, praise the Lord, they have hymn karaoke for sale. Not joking, that's a thing. You can Google it. It's probably out there on eBay. And there was like 6 songs that I knew on that CD, so we cycled through them for 2 years. But God worked in that little church. God worked. That tiny church of 6 grew to about 40 people. 40 people. I didn't tell people we grew by 34 people. I just told them the percentage of growth, and everyone was way more impressed with that. Here's my point. Here's my theme. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. If God can save any person, He can save any church. And I believe that. If God can save any person, He can save any church. You, as Global Methodists, have an incredible opportunity in front of you. God is working through your movement, and I believe that. But if you don't grasp this opportunity, will He bless? I don't know that He will. Now, I cannot get into the mind of God. I certainly don't pretend to know all of the will of God. But if you are not obedient with the opportunity that is in front of you, it'll be missed. It'll pass over you. So yes, you are in a good place. Yes, you have incredible leadership. Yes, your churches have made some difficult decisions, but you've landed where you need to land. If you don't move, I don't know that God's going to work. I believe theologically, this is my theological perspective, that God can save any person. If anyone will hear the gospel, they have the opportunity to receive the gospel. And if that's true, theologically, if that's true, He can save any church. I don't like going to these conferences where I hear some speakers, and I'm not going to name names, but some speakers say, well, that church should just die. No church should die. Some will, unfortunately, but no church should die. If people are worth it to God, then churches are worth it to God. So what happened at Union Band Baptist Church? We took a couple of steps back from the brink. Like, what was your role there? I was there for a little over 2 years. My role was just to take them back from the brink. That was God's task for me. I wasn't there to take the rural church to mega church heights. That was never going to happen anyway. There's 500 people in the community. I was there to get them to a place to be healthy enough to continue ministry. And some of you have had that assignment. Some of you are in that assignment right now. So the 2 key driving principles of what I want to share with you today is that 1, no church should die. And 2, every church can grow. I believe that. I believe that if we're obedient to the Great Commission, we will see growth. I don't know what kind of growth. I can't promise certain percentages. I wish I could. That'd be great. I'd sell a boatload of resources if I said, if you just do this, you're going to grow by 30%. That would be awesome. It doesn't work that way. But approximately 80% of churches in our nation, I'm going to talk more in the North American, United States context. I realize you are global, and congratulations on that. But I'm going to talk your context. I'm going to talk North American context. Approximately 80% of churches are plateauing or declining. Which means that's a lot of you, frankly. The question is, what are you going to do about it? This is a systemic problem in North America. And if you're like, am I alone? No, you're not alone. If you're like, man, we've struggled to grow, well, you're more the norm than anything else. So what are we going to do about it? Churches tend to be, particularly like normal established churches, right? It's just your everyday typical church. Churches tend to be simultaneously fragile and resilient. And you may say, that's a contradiction. It's not, and let me explain. So, it's like every Sunday. You feel the fragility. Every Monday you wake up and you're like, are we going to get to the next Sunday? Like some of you feel that. You feel that pressure. You feel that fragility of your church. Maybe you're in an older congregation. You're just wondering what's going to happen. So there is a fragility to the life of the church, while at the same time, it's like they just keep going for years and years and years like that. Simultaneously fragile and resilient. These churches, they hang on by their fingernails, but their fingernails are so stinking strong. And I may be describing your church. I may be, that may be, you may be like, yeah, that's me. Well, you know what? That's a lot of churches. I want to put up a chart here. Just a church attendance chart. I realize it's a little hard to see, and you can take a picture if you like. This comes from one of our researchers, Ryan Burge, who's phenomenal, by the way. A little plug for Graphs About Religion. Love what he does. This is a very simple chart of percentages. And it just shows that there are fewer people attending church now than were several years ago in 2008. That's just the data that I happen to have. But you could just pick about any date and it would still be the same. But those who never go is going up. Now, some of you who follow research closely, some of those percentages are shifting, and maybe Gen Z might be, attending church a little more, and all of that's true, but the overall trends the last several years have not been good for the church. Haven't been good. People who come every week, there's still a significant amount of people in the United States who do, 25%, but that's down from 31%. So there is a general trend in the wrong direction. So that's the macro perspective. I know your question is like, well, why won't my church grow, right? Why does my church struggle? Let me tell you a story about a church in the Midwest. I was consulting them. This was several years ago. And they had declined from, and I think I'm going to have this right, 400 to 160 over 30 years. 30 years. So it's like 400 or 180. Let me do my math right. They had lost on average about 8 people per year. If you just do that over 30 years, like, do you feel that? That's the frog in the kettle syndrome, right? I mean, you don't feel that, right? So, and they'd finally woken up. Like, the room had just gotten just empty enough to like, well, where is everyone? After 30 years, like, where is everyone? And they had this new young pastor, and they're like, well, maybe it's his fault. So here I am. I'm the consultant. I love being a consultant because you get to walk in, say a bunch of stuff that makes everyone mad, get paid, and leave. So I come in there, and I'm just doing the math, and I'm looking like, okay, 320, or 200. You've lost 240 people. That's what it was. 240 people over 30 years. That's 8 people per year. It's early, so I don't know if I'm doing my math right, but, and I'm like, okay, I had their data. I had their own data. And so I charted it out, put an Excel spreadsheet, all fancy and stuff. Consultants do that. Look at this chart. And like, well, that's not right. I said, well, that's the data you provided me. I didn't make this up. It just came from what you gave me. And they're like, well, we think our pastor's the problem. I said, your pastor is 26. This problem began before he was born. They had 8 old-timers who were elders, great men of God. They really were. I mean, they genuinely wanted the right thing, waking them up. And I'm like, you've lost 8 people per year for 30 years. You have 8 elders who have been here forever. If your elders just did their job and won one person for Christ every year, you wouldn't have declined as a church. If just your elders had done what they should have done. This is the story of so many churches. Like good people people who genuinely want the right thing, but their hearts, unfortunately, are more inward, and their feet are not taking them outward. We've done some internal research at my company, and we found that only 1% of churches have an ongoing evangelism emphasis across all tribes, all denominations, all groups, all networks. Now you say, well, we do an event. Sure, lots of churches do an event. We're about ready to roll with Vacation Bible School next week, my church. I love VBS, I'm really excited. So much fun, so much fun. But in terms of like ongoing, like we do this monthly, we do this weekly, we have a program, we have a system, we have a way of doing this. Frankly, Methodists do this really well. You guys like create systems and programs and rhythms and patterns. I mean, this is what you're known for. But let's do evangelism. Let's put evangelism into that mix. I believe your church can navigate these waters. But let's talk about the waters. Let's just, again, more stats, more data. A typical church will lose about 20%. Now, this is a real rough figure. But a typical church will lose about 20% of its attendance every year. So let's just look at an example of a church of 100. All right, so I'm gonna walk you through 4 things here. Death, moving, transfer, and frequency. And you can go ahead and put all those up on the screen with the bullet points. Just so people can have them, they can take the pictures and get the slides. So let's say you have a church of 100. The median church size in the United States is 65, so this would be a little larger than the median. But this is a very typical church. 100 people on average. Who are you going to lose in that 100 people? So, you just look at death rates. That's a bit of a morbid thought. I hate to think that, but 1% of your church is going to pass away every year. Now, if you're like we're a bunch of 80-year-olds, it may be a little higher. But typically, a church is going to lose about 1% of its congregants to death every year. There's nothing you can do about that. 9 are going to move away. The mobility rate, and that's actually dropping. We'll talk about that here more in a second. 9 are going to move away. 5 will transfer to another church, typically. But then you're going to lose about 5 to 10 in your attendance number due to frequency. So I was coming every week, now I'm coming every other week, right? So if you have 100 people coming every week, your average attendance is 100. But if you have 100 people coming every other week, which most pastors will take, like every other week I'll take it, your average attendance is 50. You're half the size, even though you have the same people. Which is like, why is my church smaller and why am I busier? We get that question all the time from pastors. That's the reason. Those people still rely on you for everything. They still call, you still do the funerals, still do the weddings, still got to go to the hospital. They're just there. They're there every other week instead of every. So it's like my church is half the size, but I'm doubly busy. That's why. So this is just reality. Like these are just stats. And of course you say, well, my church breaks the trends. You know, we don't fit these. It's fine. Good for you. I mean, I'm just saying, generally speaking, this is what's going to happen. So for you to maintain 100 in attendance because of death, moving, transfer, and frequency, you have to bring in new people, right? So if you're like, man, we're just treading water, if you're just treading water in your attendance, you're actually bringing in new people. And that's worth celebrating too. Particularly if you're like, hey, we're just treading water, but a lot of new young families are coming in. You should celebrate that. It's like, well, we haven't grown by great percentages, but we are a little younger as a church. Good for you. Now, the smaller the church, the less of an impact. So if you're like, hey, we got 10 people, well, okay, then these percentages break down the smaller the group. I get that. I'm just giving you some general concepts here of like, why is my church declining? Well, these are some key reasons why. So let's talk about growth. I've shared this so many times, so if you've heard this from me, you're going to hear it again. There's only 4 ways a church can grow. You can go ahead and put all 4 of them. I'll walk through them. They're separate here. So there's only 4 ways statistically a church can grow. And I realize, like, I'm talking stats. I'm not talking spiritual growth. Clearly, that's a whole other thing. I'm not very good at that. I'm just good at the numbers, so I'm going to give you the numbers. Conversion growth. So 4 ways a church can grow statistically. That person that wasn't at your church, is now at your church. They were one to Christ. They've been assimilated into the body, and now you're discipling them. That's conversion growth. Like, they weren't in any church. They didn't know Jesus. Now they do. And they've come into your family, your church, and now they're growing spiritually. So that's conversion growth. Then there's biological growth. Biological growth is when children are born. But don't forget, fostered or adopted. My family's been a foster family for many years. We adopted my son Dominic. That's biological growth. So, I don't want to neglect the foster families, the adopted children. They're very much part of your family too, right? So, but that's so children being born, children coming into homes, and then because they're coming into homes, however they come into that home, they're now coming into the church. So that's biological growth. Then there's demographic growth. The third way a church can grow statistically. It's just, hey, I'm new to the community. I just moved to Spring Arbor. I think that's where I'm at, right? By the way, I live in Florida. It's so busy, crazy, crowded, all this stuff. I'm like driving through the countryside, and I see a deer, and I want to stop and sing hymns to the Lord. I mean, it's just like, man. Just don't hit it. Just don't hit it. I know. Yeah, I tried not to. That would have been a whole other story for this morning. Like, I guess what happened. Good thing I got the insurance on the rental car. No, it's so peaceful out here. It's like very different than where I live. But we have a lot of people moving to Florida. And they're like, yeah, we're sending you all the crazy people. I'm like, bring them on. I love my crazy people in Florida. But that's demographic growth. I'm new to the town. I'm new to your community. I'm looking for a church. I'm a believer. Well, let me tell you, I'm all over that. Like, hey, come to my church. And then lastly, and I've put these in order of importance in case you've noticed, is transfer growth. Now, this occurs when a resident stays in the same community and moves from one church to another. And there are times to do that. We tend to really look down upon transfer growth because we know, the big churches got big, which is true. But there are times for a person to make that transfer. I don't have time to get into all of those reasons. Perhaps we can discuss that in the breakout session. But there are times for that. But that's the least important of all of the four, right? Now, here's the problem with conversion growth, biological growth, demographic growth, and transfer growth. One, conversion growth, we're just not doing it in our nation. Now, globally it's happening. Churches globally are doing this better in certain spots of the world. But here in the United States, we're just not sharing our faith. It really is that simple. Scott, you and I have talked about this. Like, man, I want to get back to the good old days of Baptist Methodists and this whole competition that we had on the frontier era. And it was like, who can plant the church the fastest? Who can get the guy out there the quickest? And typical on horseback back in the day. And there was this I'm going to win more people to the Lord than you. And they're like, well, we don't compete in the kingdom of God, right? I know, but then just a little bit might be good for us. That was a wonderful era of American history. It's a wonderful era of Methodist history. Let's see how many souls we can save. And be like, why not? But we're not doing it. We're not doing it. So we've got limited conversion growth. Only 1% of churches have an ongoing evangelism emphasis. But here's the thing about biological growth. The median age of a churchgoer is 60. I don't know if any of you are 60 in here. Probably not looking to have children. I'm 45, and I've told my wife, I'm done, and she's still young enough to get the baby fever, and I'm like, stop it. She turns 40 in 2 weeks, and that's going to be the turning point. I'm like, we're done. So our churches tend to be older, and then just facts, and I know this can be a bit of a painful subject, so I want to be careful here, but the fertility rates are way down in the United States. And I understand that's an individual thing, and if you've ever experienced difficulties with that, I feel for you, I do. But again, I'm just talking big picture reality. In the 1950s, it was 3.5 children per woman. And we are far from that. The replacement rate is 2.1. We're at 1.6 right now. The only way this country will grow is immigration, by the way. That's a whole nother subject. And that's an economic reality. Now, you may say, well, it depends on who we're letting in and how. Totally with you. But we aren't having children at a rate fast enough to replace the people that are here. That's a real problem. That affects the church. My point is, like, churches don't have booming nurseries like they used to, and there's several reasons for that. One of them is just people aren't having children at the rate that they used to. Limited conversion growth, limited biological growth, limited demographic growth. This one shocks people when I tell them this. We are at one of the least mobile points in all of American history. Most people think that everyone's moving all the time. That is not true. People are staying put more than they ever have. In the 1940s, 1 in 5 people in a community would move away. 1 in 5. Today, it's less than 1 in 10. And by the way, of the 1 in 10 that are moving, it's mainly baby boomers because they're the only ones that have the money to do that. Us millennials, we're broke. Like, interest rates are high, housing prices are crazy, like, I can't afford to move. And oh, by the way, what used to be 1-income homes are now 2-income homes. So if you move, like a mom and a dad, a husband and a wife have to both find new jobs. So mobility rates, particularly among young people, are really, really low, which means this. If you reach your young people, you're likely to keep them. We're seeing the limitations of growth, but the opportunities are there. In the last 25 years, the median church size has dropped by half. Median church size in 2000 was 137 people. Median church size today is 65. That's weekly attenders, not members, weekly attenders. So, who are we going to reach? We need to reach the unchurched. We need to reach the people that aren't reached. We've tapped out of transfer growth. Like, this whole megachurch movement is coming to an end. It's not going to go away. But we've pulled, if you go back even further than 2000, it would be even more in terms of median church size. All the people that have transferred out of churches and gone to larger churches have pretty much done that at this point. There's no one to pull from anymore. So something else has to happen. What is that something else? What can the Global Methodist Church lead in? What movement can start from you? Well, let's go share the gospel with people that don't go to church. So let's talk about the unchurched. I'll move quickly, but one, unchurched does not mean unfamiliar. People still have a general church background in the United States. About 60% of unchurched individuals say they attended as a child. Right? So like 6 out of 10 people, 6 out of 10 or 3 out of 5. Again, it's early. Doing fractions in my brain while I'm trying to teach you. About 3 out of 5 people have had some experience in church. It may have been when they were real little, they haven't been there in 50 years. But unchurched does not mean unfamiliar. Nearly 6 out of 10 unchurched people believe that the church is good for their community. This is all brand new data, by the way. We just did this research project. This is not dated at all. This is brand new, hot off the presses. Most unchurched people aren't hostile. You meet that one person out of like 50 that's hostile, and that's the one you remember, right? Most aren't. Most people are receptive. They may be cautious and disconnected, but they'll talk to you about it. But only 38% of the unchurched said they viewed their local church favorably. So while there's a good majority of people that don't go to church, churches they're good. They're good for their communities. But the church that's next to me, I don't know about that. It's because we're not doing our job of reaching outward. Just being good witnesses in our own communities. So the unchurched want to like the church, but sometimes they experience things that make them think that their local churches around them are not where they should be. Now, we had a surprise in this data. A big surprise. The unchurched view the church as more relevant today than churchgoers do. Now, I can give you all the data, and you're like, what's your methodology here? I just don't have time to share all that. I can give you all of that if you want it. You can go get the research report at churchanswers.com if you like. But the unchurched view the church as, it's a big word, like it was really popular a few years ago, but I'm using that intentionally. So 40% of churchgoers, 40% of people who go to church regularly said that they think that the church is largely irrelevant, but only 25% of the unchurched felt the same. So like 3/4 of the unchurched are saying, I want to like the church. I think it's really relevant. It's just nobody from the church is reaching out to me. So the unchurched people are saying, no, the church is relevant. I just can't trust it because I don't know my local church around me. This is fascinating to me. So what can you do about these trends? We're going to talk about that in my breakout session, so you can come to my breakout session if you like. But I want to introduce just a few thoughts here as we kind of wind our time down. How do we shift church culture from stagnation to an expectation of growth? And like I said, I'll unpack more of this later, but let's redefine success. Let's focus on lead metrics instead of lag metrics. And what do I mean by this is, we like to say, I want to grow my church by 30%. That's great. That's a lag metric. That's the result. The lead metric is, well, I'm going to invite someone to church every week in order to get to that point, right? So we tend to celebrate the lag metric, the result, but what we need to be celebrating is the lead metric. So someone in my church comes up to me and says, I invited someone, they didn't come this week. I say, you're doing what you should be doing. I celebrate the lead effort. And when the lag happens, the result happens, that's great. So invites made is more important than the attendance number. Because you get the invites made up, the attendance number is going to follow, right? And then celebrate these bright spots in your worship service. I'll often call people out in my worship service when they do something right. I'll mention it. I don't want to ever embarrass anybody, but I'll be like, so-and-so did this. Isn't that awesome, church? Because you become what you celebrate. You become what you celebrate. So where do you start? Well, you work with the willing. You're like, I only got 4 people in my church that'll help me really do this. You have 4 saints who will help you. Just do some math on that. What if we each won a family or 2 every year? Like 4 people, like that multiplies quickly. Another thing you can do is just focus on ongoing quality programming. This is what we do at my church. I can give you all sorts of details there. Just Sundays and Wednesdays, Sunday morning, Wednesday night, Sunday morning, Wednesday night. We have a very clear rhythm, and we focus on that rhythm. And you say, well, how does that work? Well, when you sign up to play ball at with Little League, and what if the coach was like, I just want to make this easy for you. So come when you want to come. You don't have to come to practice. You can play whatever position you want. You be you. Just do what you want to do. Like you look at that coach like, you're insane. Why do churches do that? Yeah, that's right. Why do churches lower the bar of expectations? No, raise the bar of expectations. We want you here. We're not going to be legalists about it. But no, you need to be here. Focus on ongoing quality programming. 100 people every week is better than 500 people once a month. And then resource ministries focused on the youngest generations. I like to look at church budgets and just combine the children's ministry with the student ministry budget. Put those together. See how much the church is doing. And then I take that number and I compare it to the worship budget. Don't cut your worship ministry. I'm not saying if you're a worship pastor, you're like, don't cut me. I'm not cutting you. But your combined children's ministry and student ministry budget line item should be significantly more than your worship ministry. Add in personnel costs and all that stuff too. Then you get a feel for where the focus of a church is. Hospitality is important as well. You got to be better at hospitality if you're a small church than the large church. Here's why. I love baseball. I'm a big baseball fan. I'm a Tampa Bay Rays fan. Detroit Tigers having a great season, by the way. Good, congratulations, all of you. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I'm happy for him, genuinely happy for you. I've been there as a Tampa Bay Rays fan. Tropicana Field, Hurricane Milton got the roof ripped off. We're at Steinbrenner Field. I could do a whole presentation on that, actually, and I'm not, because I'm a big baseball fan. Here's the thing. I'll walk into Tropicana Field, hopefully starting next season. There's 20,000 people there. I expect a level of anonymity. I just want efficiency. Get me in a parking spot. Get me in the ballpark. I'll get a hot dog. I'll sit down and do my thing. I'll walk into a local restaurant that's got 20 seats, and it's a mom and pop place, and it's kind of known as just being the local spot. Very different experience, right? If nobody says anything to me in that local restaurant, I'm like, can I get a seat? That's weird. Right? So churches are the same way. And you say, well, that's not fair that the megachurch has all these resources and people expect anonymity. I'm like, okay, well, when was life fair? But it's also an opportunity for small churches to really win people with hospitality. This is the most underrated spiritual gift in the United States right now. Don't you dare cut your coffee budget. Those are your best people. And then we'll go all in for an invite culture with the gift-giving strategy. We'll talk about that more in my breakout session. And I want to end with this, though. I want to end with a verse. I know I'm here as the stats guy and the research guy and the practical church health guy, but I want to end in a verse. 2, 3. I'm a good Baptist. No 1, no 2, no 3. Yeah. We all know when a Baptist preacher says, hey, I'm concluding. You know what that means? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Romans 10:13. Let me just read this to you. You know this passage. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But, so that's the promise, but how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? And how can they believe in him if they've never heard about him? And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? And how will anyone go and tell without being sent? That is why the scriptures say, what? How beautiful are the feet, which is like one of the most contradictory passages I've ever read, because feet are not beautiful. How beautiful are they? I could show you mine. You'd be like, yep. How beautiful are the feet of messengers who bring good news. Let me tell you what I am most convicted about right now, Global Methodists. I am convicted that the Christian faith is just as much about using your feet as it is your mind. A lot of great focus on the mind. I'm very grateful for all the scholars and the people who were smarter than me and the theologians that have influenced me. I don't want that to go away. I love the academic focus on Scripture. I think it's so worthwhile and so good. But we have neglected our feet. We're not going to people. And let me tell you, and this is the warning I will give you. I know you're excited about all that's happening in your tribe, and you should be. But if you don't use your feet, the movement will stall. The most lethal attitude for a Christian and for a church is, I can't. But the most contagious attitude is, God can. Be a God can people. May Global Methodists, may the Great Lakes Conference be known as a God can do this people. There's all sorts of trends I could point to. I could go on and on and on, but let me leave you with this. God has given you a clear command. Your feet need to take you to someone. Your feet need to take you to your neighbor, the coworker, the friend, the family member that's not in church, that may or may not know Jesus. Please don't neglect the things of the mind. But let's get our feet moving. we're far too stationary. So, let's get going. Thank you for allowing me the time to be with you. I'm going to invite my friend Scott to come up here. And we do have a QR code just, to take you to a landing page. We've got a partnership here if you want to get your phone out and just go there. You can look at it, you can read all this stuff there later, but I know that you wanted to have some time to kind of go back and forth here.
Yeah, so I knew you're a shoe guy, and so I wanted to get you a pair of our Global Methodist socks.
Oh, no.
Little did I know you were going to end with use your feet.
Oh, this is so great. I am wearing these on Sunday for Father's Day in my Baptist church. I am... Thank you.
Did you learn something today? Yeah. You did exactly what we had hoped and knew you would do, so thank you, Sam. Now, one of the things we have done, we've been utilizing the resources. One of the resources, we were part of the beta test in the church I had served at the time with a Hope Initiative, and that is a 30-day prayer walking experience to begin to make your church a Great Commission culture, but also build a practice. What do we need to know? So I gave our leadership team and our leaders in the church this week the Pray and Go book, which is the prayer booklet for the 30-day experience, and we're giving them, and we've given some of our churches the Hope Initiative. We will have it at a reduced cost with the partnership we have, but tell us just a little bit about the Hope Initiative.
Yeah, the Hope Initiative is one of our better known resources. My dad did it, not me, so all credit to Tom Rayner. He's not here, so I'm glad to give him credit for that. But think of it as step one to changing the culture in your church. Kind of step one to getting your people to move outwardly. And it's all there programmed, ready for you to use. It's basically press a button, good to go, follow the instructions. And we've created these resources for your typical church where, I'm sure it's a lot of you. It's like, you know what? I got 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people that are really on it. The rest of them aren't. So you can either start with that group of the willing with the Hope Initiative, or if you think you can get more people involved, it's one of these things that can be progressive where it starts with 2 or 3 and then moves to 4 or 5 and then moves to 10 or 12 or 20. But what it does is it helps you create an outward culture just by things like instruct your people to send a text to someone that they know, encouraging them. That's an outward focus, right? Let's utilize technology to just, hey, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. I know you've been through whatever. I'm adding you to my church prayer list. You have people praying for you.
And the cool thing is, when we did the beta test, we didn't have these, but the kit now has it, are templates. I've never done this. I've never written a letter. I never sent a text. How do I invite somebody? There's templates and videos to help the pastor to equip the people of God to do the work of God to do that. So that's what I love about that. So that's part of our partnership that we have, and part of our partnership is they've discounted the price at Church Answers. We as a conference are underwriting the majority of it, and in the year 2025, it's only $25 for this kit that we want to make sure we equip that. Now, we also have some partnerships and some other resources that are next step resources that you've worked on some, just a thumbnail. You can look at the QR code takes you to our partner page.
Correct.
And so just help us get a snapshot thumbnail of what are some of those resources that we have.
Yeah, so everything is described on the page, but the one resource that I will point you to that I think is really worth your while is the Gold membership, because you get the Know Your Community report, which is a demographic report. You get the Know Your Church report, which is a congregational survey, a whole slew of other resources, our premium content. It's our best deal. So if you're like, there's a bunch of stuff on this page, what am I getting? Hope Initiative is awesome if you want to run a program to change the culture of your church when it comes to outreach, when it comes to like the leadership of your church and actually understanding what you can do and next steps. The Gold membership is a great way to go. So that's the one that I would point you to. I could spend the next 10 minutes talking about everything that's in it, but I won't do that because most of you can read and you can navigate the website and just see what's there. But where people find the most value at Church Answers is through that gold membership. And I do believe that there's a discount for that on the partner page.
And the thing I love about that is you get to do your own research, baseline your own church based on your own church's data, and keep coming back next year and do the next one, and you are able to trend yourself based on your own responses. And that's what I love about those resources.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the offer just to tell you guys about it. But hear my heart. What do I want for you? I want your churches to seek and to save the lost. Amen. And to make disciples of all nations. Amen. However you do that, whether it's with our stuff or whoever, if your church is doing that, that's all I care about. But we would love to help you if we can.
And that's what I love about Sam. We're just letting you know the tools, and he keeps saying, go win people to Jesus, and we definitely want that. And we're not selling the product. We're just wanting to go, if these tools can help you. Now, you just released a curriculum that is crazy. Your dad's like, we're losing money on this. It's like, we're losing money on this, but we got to equip the small church that doesn't have the money.
Yeah, so one thing that we've heard from our audience over and over and over again is, will you do curriculum? And if you've ever been in that world, you know how hard it is because it's a lot of work and it can be very expensive. So yeah, what we've created is called Church Equip. So a good word, equip, Church Equip. It's $15 a month that the church pays for the entire church. Like everybody, as many people as you want to use. Not $15 per person in your church. $15 a month for the entire church. Now, we're going to be launching a whole lot more there. It's not right now media size. If it was, we'd have to charge you a lot more. But we're starting with what we have, and we're going to build it as we go. There's enough there now for a couple of years worth of curriculum, and we'll be launching several new resources over the next several years. So we've got a good pipeline there. But if you want to get in early, because this is kind of the introductory price, we will lock your price for 100 years. We will lock your price for 100. I'm not joking. I'm making a promise that I don't even have to worry about. But that's because we're just getting started. If you want to get in early and start using this, Church Equip curriculum, you can find it on the website. It's $15 a month for the whole church.
Now on the call, I just want you to know on the call that Tom was sharing this with everybody, I asked the question some of you are asking. But we're Global Methodists. What theological bent is this going to be? And Tom goes, don't worry, Scott. This is middle evangelical. You get to take it and teach the direction you need it to be. But as we've moved our alignment from mainline to be with the Wesleyan holiness in the evangelical world, this curriculum is solidly evangelical in theology, but it doesn't take a bent. That's for the teacher to teach. And so you can trust this. And and here's the other thing is, if you're concerned, we just share the concern. And I have found you guys to be so adaptable and adjusting to go, no, how do we honor this? Because you're not trying to push you're pushing Jesus. You're pushing sharing Jesus. You're not pushing a theological bent.
Not at all. We at Church Answers are not aligned with anyone. Obviously, I have a Baptist background, but we're not aligned with anyone. We're an independent organization, and we do approach all of our resources with just a straight down the line conservative evangelical perspective. We have zero desire to try to change what you guys are doing, because I believe you're doing an awesome job, and I expect your tribe to grow tremendously. So I want to help you do that.
All right, we're going to have Ben come up, and let's give Sam a thank.
Hey, thanks so much, Sam and Scott. Appreciate you guys both. Hey, so as we wrap up this session, just a few more minutes here before we get a quick break. Before then, we'll do our next legislative session, voting for general conference nominees here at 10:30. One thing, though, if you have not gotten a chance to go to the exhibit hall and just check out all of our exhibitors and vendors, we are just so thankful for them. You can see all of them listed in your program. I encourage you go and make connections out there. There's a whole host of resources that we hope will be helpful to you. But we want to highlight one specific group in particular, our platinum sponsors, people that we have worked closely with here in the last few months that have been a joy and privilege to work with. And so we want to highlight One Mission Society and thank them for their sponsorship of our conference. We've got a quick video to show you here as well.
One can make the difference. We have one hope in one God who loves everyone. Hope for all people, everywhere. Hope that the power of the gospel in the hands of disciple makers will transform all nations. Sent from anywhere to everywhere. Disciples making disciples. Engaging the one to reach the many. Through multiplying disciples, churches, missionaries, and leaders. This is our one mission. Bringing good news to the lost, providing relief to the weary and marginalized, multiplying worshiping groups, developing new leaders, empowering you to empower others. This is our one mission. One Mission Society.
Yes, again, so we thank One Mission for their sponsorship and partnership here. If you want to connect with them, they are actually in the back. Joshua, give a big wave. And so you will not miss them. Their sign is quite big. So if you go back in there, but we'd love for you just to connect with them. And again, we thank you guys. So we are going to come back here at 10:30. And we'll get started there with our voting and everything at that point. But go, take a minute, get a drink. There should, I hope, be some snacks available again. And we'll see you here in 25 minutes.